Hello and welcome. My name is Ellison, a researcher here at the Hague Center for Strategic Studies, and today we are having an event called From Cloud to Communities, Shaping the Future of Digital Events. And today for an interview I am joined by Christian Fjäder, who is one of our panelists today, and we're very happy to have him joining. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you.
Maybe you can give us a little bit of a preview of what you'll be talking about today.
All right, so I've been asked to talk a little bit about what might be new, potentially revolutionary in societal warfare. So if adversaries have always tried to sort of crumble the societal moral and will and capabilities of the society to keep on fighting, we're certainly seeing a lot more evolution towards potentially crumbling the society, winning the war through not the battlefield but the home front.
Sure, and it's interesting, especially here in Europe, because I feel like that's a style of thinking we haven't really had for quite a long time, with of course the exception of the Ukrainians right now.
Yeah, and there's of course during the Cold War we still talked about total war and total defense, but after the Cold War ended, during the peace-dividend years, we were more focused, of course, on sort of crisis management operations and conflicts happening somewhere else than in our home front. So we haven't focused that much on how our societies can actually wither sort of direct attacks on the societal fabric itself. And I think the other thing that has happened is that whereas, for instance, critical infrastructures used to be more state-controlled, of course, they're now in majority controlled by the private sector. So they're not under the state's direct control. Private companies mostly are operating based on business logic. How prepared are they against this sort of state-sponsored potential attacks, whether they cyber or physical, against their operations?
Absolutely, and it's, as we talk, these ideas like total defense or resilience, whichever word people decide to pick, right. That public-private partnership is an interesting one. And I wonder if there are any examples you can point to where that sort of relationship has been successful in that kind of world of total defense.
Right. So Finland, for instance, is one of the countries that has a very long tradition in terms of cooperation between public and private sectors, and also in whole of society resilience, in the sense that also NGOs and the civic sector is involved. How successful it has been, not sure. I mean, there's a lot of cooperation, there's a lot of sharing of information, a lot of sharing of best practices. I think the fundamental problem, though, is that the private sector never has had the responsibility to sort of build their resilience or defenses against state-sponsored attacks, whether they're cyber, physical, or kinetic. And it just doesn't fit their business model. So the deal we made in the 80s and 90s, where we started privatizing critical infrastructures, was that private sector operators can provide better service at lower cost, so much more cost-effective service. And in terms of security, there wasn't much there in that sort of pact, except that there should be some sort of continuity of service. So continuous service against sort of normal disruptions, technical errors, accidents, maybe natural disasters and things like that. But nobody ever talked about defending against state-sponsored or state-backed attacks. So that kind of robustness is not there. And that would take a lot of money to build up as well. So who would actually be responsible for the cost as well? It doesn't make sense for private companies to invest that kind of money in defenses.
Oh, absolutely, and I think there's going to be a lot of listeners here eager to hear more about some of this today. And I'll have one final question for you. Obviously, next week here in The Hague, we have a NATO summit coming up, quite a big one. If you had a point that you could make sure gets through to the leaders that are discussing these topics here next week, what would it be?
Yeah, it probably has to do with spending. So famously, we currently talking about at least for 3.5% in defense spending, an additional 1.5% into sort of military-related spending, whether it's military mobility or infrastructure. Whereas resilience, of course, so if we want to make our critical infrastructure and services, our societies in general, more robust, towards the sort of threat picture that we're currently seeing. That's going to also take a lot of investment. The problem, of course, is that that's not in the mandate of NATO as such. It's sort of a question of the nations sort of sovereignly deciding where to spend it, and maybe the European Union will be again a good partner in this, in sense of sort of making sure that we also have those much needed investments in resilience.
Definitely. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being here today. Be sure to follow us in this event more online on our social media, and thank you again.
Thank you.